as well as the Bloomberg School of Public Health. Next. Okay, and kind of a split here. Again, Johns Hopkins Hospital, larger areas of, more residents. You're starting to come across Patterson Park here in your bottom right. And then we're going to kind of see, all of Patterson, as well as some mixed use developments. We're kind of getting into some more commercial areas as we head into Fells Point. And so that's the area that we're studying. We're really looking forward to hearing from you. Please be patient with us as we go through these kind of virtual setting. And then we're going to have, I think, Melissa, I think that's it as far as you're going to lay down some exercises for us.
That's right. Let's do it. You guys ready?
All right.
Yay. Okay. All right. So let's meet this tool that we're going to use tonight to do these activities. It's a tool called Miro. It's really a virtual collaboration tool. So hopefully it's pretty simple. If anyone needs help, again, we're here to help you and walk you through this. So we're going to take this whole group of people. I don't know how many we have, a bunch. And we're going to put everybody into breakout rooms. So in a few minutes, Nathan's going to sort everyone and we're all going to jump into these other rooms in the world. So you will have your facilitator with you. And so we're going to chat through some stuff. The first thing we'll do is kind of an icebreaker, and then we're going to get into the meat of things. So again, like I said, please unmute yourself when you're ready to talk, and please do share. Mute yourself when someone else is talking in case you've got dogs and kids and life happening in the background, and we'll all make it through this together. So if you haven't already seen where your chat window is in our WebEx, please locate how to open your chat window, because when you go into your breakout room, you'll receive a link from your facilitator. So when you get that link, you can either click on it. If you click on it and you get a 404 error, you may want to go back and copy and paste the entire thing into your browser. That seems to work a little better sometimes. And I will say that Chrome works really well with this tool. Firefox works too. And while Internet Explorer does work in Safari, they tend to be a little laggy. So we do recommend Chrome if you have it. If not, just do what you have and we'll work with you guys. And if it's a little laggy for you, again, we're here to help. So when you click on that link, you should see something like this. And you're welcome to say no thanks to this little intro. If you say let's start, it's just going to point out a couple tools for you, just an arrow tool, a sticky note tool, but we're going to go through all of that with you. So what will happen is you should come in and see this sandbox, and your facilitators work with you and show you how you'll probably have a hand when you go in there. If you click one time, you'll see how I can select a circle. If I double click on it, I can select the text on here. And then eventually what you'll do is move your circle into the sandbox. So it's just to get us warmed up and used to the tool. So you're going to see this again in just a moment. So then you are going to also go into a sticky note exercise. And this is where your facilitator is going to ask you what you love about Wolfe in Washington. So these are all the things that we want to celebrate, right? So these are things like, I really love the street trees on this block, or I really love this place where I go visit and eat ice cream. So whatever it is that we love about the corridor, we want to make sure that we hold on to those things and preserve them as we're going through the design process. So we're going to jump in and do these two activities first. And our facilitators at the end, they're going to remember to ask for a spokesperson, because when we come back into this room, one person per group is going to tell us 1 minute's worth of what you loved most on your board and how you filled out your sticky notes. So I think, Nathan, if you're ready and you have us all sorted out, I think we're about ready to jump into those breakout rooms. And just as a reminder, this meeting is being recorded. So I did my due diligence and told everyone we're being recorded. So we're going to jump into those rooms in just a minute here. Did I forget anything, team? How are we doing?
Yep, we're good. I'm putting one person who just arrived into a room, and then I'll hit go.
All right, guys, we'll see you back here in a few minutes. So we've got a 6-minute exercise and an 8-minute exercise. But if you finish your 6, hop on into your love board. Okay, everybody, we're all filtering back in. So hopefully there wasn't too much struggle with our tool. Hopefully everyone got a little bit comfortable with it. And even if that was a little bit of a challenge, hopefully you all had a chance to chat with each other. So we're going to, Matt is going to lead our just summary and kind of do a roll call around our rooms. And we're going to talk a little bit about what your favorite love things were. And I'll just remind you to unmute Matt before you rock and roll. All right, Matt, can you hear us? I don't know if Matt can hear us. You can. Okay. All right. So all yours.
Sorry, I got a call in here, but it's going to the wrong number. So I am actually just going to ask it. Let me take a look at our cue sheets. So we had our breakout group number 1. Where are our partners here? I see Nathan, your name came up first. Who was your partner? And do you have someone to report out for the group?
All right, so Nathan George here. My partner was Micah from the city, and Brian Steele is going to report out for us.
Nick.
Yeah, we were pretty silent until we were asked the things that we don't like. Then everybody opened up, but the things we liked were that it's a walkable area. There's some great schools there. There's Commodore John Rogers and Wolfe Street Academy. It's a beautiful area. There's the residential area that connects to the commercial area down there. And we have the park up at Clifton.
Thank you. Mark and Marva?
Yep. Hey, Mark here. We had a good session, and I'll ask Sarah to report out.
Hi. Sorry, just arranging my screen. We did not get to the bit where we got to say what we didn't like. But the things that we did love about Wolfe and Washington, and they weren't all very loving. But a lot of it was about convenience. So it's a straight shot down from the park to the waterfront. It is one of the more bikeable corridors, north-south, but, that was me. It's not super bikeable. We had lots of votes for some restaurants. So Water for Chocolate, Papi Cuisine, and Ministry of Brewing. Connections to the, I'm sorry, my dog is in the background. Schools, so Wolfe Street Academy, the hospitals, the medical institutes, and then also people who said it's very convenient because I live there and there is a bus line as well. Someone also said nothing, it's too fast and too dangerous. And that's it from us.
Thank you, Sarah. All right, I'm going to report out for our group. We didn't quite get to assignments, so but a lot of similarities there. The access to the different neighborhoods, how it connects Fells Point to Clifton Park. People love riding from Clifton down Wolfe Street, accessing the garage, and all of the access to so many different amenities, including the public health school, university buildings, the area around Wolfe and Monument, Castle Street Park. I see Helmand Kabobi. So that you guys are gonna have to teach me about that one. Water for Chocolate, Ministry of Brewing. And I see one other note, but yeah, I think some other, as far as accessing, not just north and south, but we, need east and west connections, and street trees at Wolfe and Fairmount. So thank you guys. And I'm gonna mute myself for the last couple of groups. We have, Colin and Liz's group, and then, Tim, Sarah, and Grishay. So if you guys can have your folks give us a 30-second to a minute thing about items that they love, if not too redundant. Thank you.
I think Kurt is going to report out for our group, correct?
Yep. I lost my mirror board though. But our group, a couple people liked the challenge of riding up Washington Street, and they thought they were rewarded with the downhill on Wolfe Street. The Wolfe Street Academy was something that the group liked. The neighborhoods themselves, the walkability, the architecture. They enjoyed having Clifton Park at the top. There are a couple other things. Let's say, I don't know, I'm drawing a blank on it now. But, the architecture, there was a park above the hospital that people enjoyed, community garden up there. That's about it. No negatives, really.
Thank you.
And for the last group, we had Josephina is going to report.
Hi, guys. So we definitely have some repetitions from what other people said, but Ministry Brewing made the list. Interesting architecture, water for chocolate, of course, variety of land uses. We've got trees and just greenery. And of course, it's a practical connector route between points of interest. Wolfe Street Academy, it's been said a few times, the Gold Bus. They're a straight shot from Fells to Clifton Park. There's a note here, like the cultural resource of Clifton Park and a hub for East Baltimore. The Save the Bay storm drain paint. And these final two additions were mine. One was Clifton Park Pool. And I work at Kennedy Krieger, so walking up and down Wolfe Street is my pre-COVID, route to work. So that's it.
All right, I think that's all of our groups. Did we miss anybody? Speak now. Okay. All right, well, here we go. We're going to venture into this next section. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a quick presentation on what great streets are, and then we're going to go through two more fun activities. So guys, hang in there and take it away, Liz.
Sure. So we are just going to talk through kind of what we're asking our streets to do for us, which is really a lot, and talk about some of the specific elements that make streets work. I am seeing in the comments that in the chat that people might have had more to say if highlighting issues with the street, and hopefully going through these slides will give us a little framing for when we do the next exercise to really highlight those issues and also think about the tools we could use to address them. So next. I didn't see the slide change. Is that a me issue? Okay, so some roads, like divided highways, your I-95s, they're purely about mobility. They're about moving people, moving stuff. But our streets in our city settings, we ask them to do a lot more than that. And sort of the baseline thing that we need our streets to do is to be safe for pedestrians. Everyone is a pedestrian at some point, or a mobility device user, even if it's just getting to your car or to your bus. And so an absolute bare minimum, our spaces must be safe for pedestrians. And that includes some of these toolkit items like ADA ramps, high visibility crosswalks, good sight distance, stuff like that. Next. I'm sorry, I'm rushing a little bit. It's just for time. We did mention the gold, and there is a lot of transit in the area. Accessing transit is something that we ask our streets to do for us. And the tools to make that work really well are things like ADA accessible transit stops, which can take many forms, including bus bulb outs, floating bus islands, And then all of those amenities and crossing improvements that we talked about in order to provide pedestrian safety. Next. If a street is identified as part of the bike network, which both of these streets are, it becomes a priority to create safety for people biking. And just to clarify, this feasibility study is just saying, like, we really understand that we need to create a safe bike connection from Clifton Park to the waterfront to connect all these great neighborhoods, all these amenities that we're talking about. But then to address something that I saw in the chat, that doesn't necessarily mean that it will be a bike lane. It means that it will be some type of bike facility. And so that's why we're using that language, because the big thing that we're trying to do in this process is figure out whether and how Wolfe and or Washington can be used to create that, that safe bike connection. And so we will be talking about that a little more specifically in the bike facilities section to sort of get past that jargon and talk about what we're talking about. But sorry that we haven't gotten there yet, and it was intentional to say bike facilities instead of bike lanes. Next. A sort of broad overarching thing that we do to make streets sort of great streets that function for pedestrian safety, as we said, and for our transit accessibility. One of the things we do is we lower the speed of cars. Cars going too fast for the context is really incredibly dangerous. The risk of serious injury or death to a pedestrian if a car is going 20 miles an hour is incredibly low. It's 5%-ish. But if that car is going even just 30, then it's sort of a coin flip as to whether that's going to be a life-ending or life-altering experience. So bringing cars to a speed that's appropriate to the fact that people live here, people work here, people go to restaurants here, people catch transit here is broadly what traffic calming is. And there's a lot of tools in that, which I can't really get into in this moment. So next. And then the last thing we ask our streets to do is we ask them to sort of be our backyard, be our front yard, be our public space. And so in addition to thinking through what type of bike facilities make sense for one or both of these corridors to create that low stress connection, we also really want to hear ideas about placemaking and livability and where some of these other amenities and elements could fit in, because we do recognize the role of streets as public space. Next. So here's where we're going to talk about that sort of bike facility types question. And what's really important to do when we're having this discussion is to remember back to those goals of creating the low stress bike facility that would be appropriate for young people, that would be appropriate for older people, appropriate for people who are experienced riders and people who are not, right? So the goal is to create that north-south connection and connect up these neighborhoods in a way that's appropriate for all of those users. And so we're going to talk through a bunch of different facility types, and they really are all fine and all good if the details are right and if the context is right. So when you're thinking through each of these bike facilities, think, would this create a facility that I would be comfortable with an 8-year-old using in this context, and what would need to change to sort of make it so? Okay, next. A shared lane is a type of bike facility, but it's only appropriate in very narrow circumstances on streets that are already calm and already really good for biking. Shared lane markings can just indicate to bicyclists where in the street is safest for them to ride, perform a wayfinding function to help them figure out where they're going to go, and indicate to drivers they should be looking out for bikes. In streets where the traffic is above 20, 25 miles an hour on average, this isn't going to create a low stress facility. Next. Standard bike lanes are a facility that we're all really used to, and they're appropriate in some contexts. But in contexts where like this one that we're showing, where that van could open its door into the bike lane, this might not be an appropriate facility for a young person or an older person, particularly if the traffic is heavy and fast moving to the left side of that bike lane. So it's really important to think about sort of the details of design of a standard bike lane and what context it would be appropriate for. Next. A contraflow bicycle lane is just a painted bike lane, and it can be next to the curb or next to parking. But the only way it's different from a painted bike lane is it can be used to introduce two-way bike travel onto a one-way street. So this is a one-way street with coming towards us, but then the bikes can also go the other way. A buffered bicycle lane, it still just uses paint. And so a design like this would allow people to get into and out of that parking and then leave a lot of space for that bicyclist and a really clear indication to cars where their space is and where the bicyclist space is. This might be an appropriate and low stress facility, particularly if that parking were really long-term residential parking, but if it turns over a lot, that might be sort of a stressful interaction for the bicyclist. So next. This is a protected bicycle lane. You can see the sort of curb and flex post elements that are separating the bicyclist from traffic. This is a facility that feels safe to most inexperienced riders, provided that the crossings at the intersections are dealt with appropriately. Sorry, next. A shared use path is a totally off-street facility. It crosses streets, and there still has to be good intersection protections. And you can see in this photo that this shared use path on the right side of the image is then connecting up to a separated bike lane, which is a really, I think, good illustration of how these pieces of the network can fit together. So next. And then in some places, wide sidewalks can be designated as sort of an off-street, a side path or a trail to allow bike riding. And especially for sort of your last half block, if you're a child or if you're really careful of pedestrians, this can be appropriate. But it is worth noting that it is often a best practice where you have pedestrians and bicyclists sharing the same space to indicate visually who should be where to make sure that bicyclists don't make pedestrians feel unsafe. So that's sort of the range of potential types of bike facilities that are out there. And this sort of range of facilities to keep in mind is why we use the phrase facilities instead of bike lanes, which is a little more familiar. Okay.
All right, so more fun. All right, so now we have a little bit of education on what a great street is and hopefully a little bit more clarity about the tools that we can use to put bicyclists on so that we can organize those spaces so that they have predictable movement, so that drivers know where they are, bicyclists know where to go. That's really important. So what we would like to know from you, since this really is a listening session first. We didn't come with a design today. We're really trying to figure out what that is. And so we would like to know, of those facilities that Liz just chatted you through, which one of those makes you feel safe? And so that's feeling safe as a driver, knowing that there's a bicyclist in the roadway space with you. That's as a pedestrian, kind of wanting to know where that predictable movement is and visibility for you as a pedestrian. That is as another bicyclist or a bicyclist yourself or a bicyclist riding with your children or your mom or your grandparents. So just in general of all of those things Liz chatted through, we're going to jump in a moment back into our breakout rooms. We'll grab 2 stickers, doesn't matter what color, and put them on the 2 facilities that you feel are safest and from a well-rounded standpoint, not just as a bicyclist, because we realize not everyone on this call is a bicyclist, and that's okay. We just want to make sure we're all organized and operating in a space in a safe manner. So the next activity we'll do is we're going to do a little bit of an exercise in fit. Okay, what does that mean? So it means that we want to treat this project as something that kind of fits between the curves. So already we're looking at those facilities that Liz talked through and we're thinking, shoot, not all of those are going to work if we want to fit in between the curves. So what we did as a team is we tried to go through and think of every possible, maybe not exhaustively, but lots of different ways that we could fit bicycle facilities within the two curves. So when you go back into your mirror board and you're ready, you're going to take a look at this cross section here. And so ultimately what we want to do is we want to roll through all of these cross sections. They go up and down. And so one column is Wolfe and the other is Washington. So your facilitator is going to chat through each of these sections with you, starting with what's out there today. And we kind of picked something representative. So the space that you see, if you add up all the numbers, is relatively representative of the whole corridor. So we'd like for you to go through each one and just take some notes on the side with your group, whether, you think this might be a little bit of a challenge here, but it works really well there. This one you feel super comfortable on, this one maybe not so much. And so let's go through and take some notes on all of our sections. And then at the end, we're going to vote for our top 3. So you'll go back up to the top, grab 3 stickers, and then pop them down for after you go through Wolfe. And then you'll go through your Washingtons, make your notes, and then go through and put your stickers on your top 3. I will say that right now, we don't know what the answer is. We don't know what the best design is. That's why we need to hear from you all tonight so that we can figure out what the best contextually sensitive design is. So we don't know if Wolfe is going to have one thing, what that means for Washington. That's all still up in the air, which is why we want to chat with you all. And then we can distill that down and figure out what we think might work the best or a couple of options. And that's what we'll bring back to you the next time we chat. So tonight is all about just doing what we do as designers and just saying, if this was a puzzle and I had to fill the space, what could I fit in here and what works? So again, as Nathan prepares to put everyone back in our breakout rooms, you'll see a section like this, and you'll see just buildings representing land use on both sides. You'll see sidewalk space. And then again, we're kind of fitting within that existing curb to curb. So out there today, this is not a today, this is a maybe, but you'll see that you have parking labeled here with circles and Ps. You'll have different facility types, which will be labeled by name and dimension. And then you'll have your travel lanes. So I'm going to invite our facilitators to jump into their rooms, go through the existing one. You guys pan over to your sections. Facilitators, let me know if you need help, but let's get in there and let's see what we think about these puzzle pieces of the roadway. All right, you guys ready?
All right, we're ready to go. See you guys on the other side.
All right, guys, have fun. Hey, everybody. Hopefully we're all getting settled back into our room here. So I just wanted to really quickly, before we do our little report out, I know this is new technology and we're on computers and we're not able to be together in the same room. So I wanted the folks who were on the phone and the folks who maybe didn't have chat windows to pull up, we are going to be posting this material on the project website. So you will be able to go to the project website and view everything that we've been presenting. On the project website, you can also, there's a web address, an email address to email to Matt and the team to communicate with us. There's also a contact form. So please feel free to use that. We really appreciate everyone's patience. I know Matt will have his patience talk too, but thank you all for this. And thank you all for adapting to some new technology as we try to find ways to feel like we're in the same room when we're all in our cozy homes. All right, Matt, take it away for report outs.
Thanks, everyone. Let's try to do 30 seconds. And again, thank you for your patience and bearing with us. We're over our time, so let's just go as quickly as possible. And so folks can get to some dinner. But Nathan and Micah's room, who's your reporter?
So I'm going to turn it back over to Brian.
Yes, we were discussing the parking, traffic speeds, but we seem to kind of come together on option 6 for Wolfe Street, and we didn't really have a consensus on Washington. One of them was the 2 parking and the bike facility. Another was the reverse angle one. But yeah, the discussion of buses and traffic speeds and everything were the big issues.
Thank you, Brian. Mark and Marva, who we have a community reporter.
So I will be glad to report out from this group. There was some very good input on the way. I think our session was sort of dominated by a frustration with some of the technology here, which I think we'll take back and look at how we move forward. But it was a good session. There was some good feedback on our Miro board. But I do think that we'll make sure that we give everybody a chance to actively participate moving forward.
Thank you, Mark. Yeah, I think we were pretty ambitious tonight. We went a little long navigating these things. Again, just want to thank everyone for hanging in there. We'll continue to provide those opportunities for input. Colin and Liz's group.
Take it away, Sean.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for having us here tonight for this conversation. I think what our group came away with, and I think we're largely coming from a Fells Point, Patterson Park perspective, so we don't want to speak too much about our thoughts on the northern corridor aspect, but preserving parking was a big ask and hope, as well as slowing the streets, so any components that can slow streets, as well as for cyclists just trying to remain consistent throughout what else is being done in the city, where else the city has lanes in it, and if we can be consistent there, and doing the best to protect cyclists when they are in those lanes is also a priority.
Thank you, Sean. Tim, Sarah, and Grishay.
All right, Josephina, I'm going to put you on the spot. We were caught up in our conversation and forgot to confirm, but are you okay with summarizing for us again? Perhaps Allie is. We had some good bicycle conversation. All right, well, feel free to jump in, but yeah, we can summarize. Sarah, you and I can take it. We had some initial concern about potholes, but I think that's universal to everywhere. There was definitely a desire to have, for the bike lanes to have them be protected. We had a couple bicyclists in our group, and so they were worried about that for sure. There was also definitely a concern for maximizing parking, which perhaps both the angle parking and the sort of appearance of that angle parking brings to a historic district, that was a concern as well. Sarah, anything else that stood out to you?
I think you hit the big points that were spoken about. I think that there is the desire for some more opportunities to provide feedback and to have a little bit more information. But
Agreed.
I think that you had a good summary there.
All right. Thank you. All right. And then our group, again, similar concerns. I think what we heard, in the first exercise was the real desire for kind of a separated facility, kind of where everyone knows where they are and feels safe and comfortable. And I think that started to come out in some of the voting. But as we got into the details, again, kind of dealing with some of those logistical challenges, definitely heard the concern for parking and making sure we're following up with multiple communities and all communities. And again, hearing those different types of concerns. And so we're going to continue to make this accessible to the public, continue doing our due diligence and reaching out to everyone. Again, we learned a lot through this, and we're pretty ambitious, and we're going to navigate some of those logistical issues and continue to work with you. So thank you for working with us through this evening, and thank you so much for your time and your feedback and your interest. And we'll continue to be a partner. We have a tentative date of February 25th for our next meeting. Melissa, were there I think you have the next steps here. You want me to just roll with it and we'll call it a night? All right. So you guys have my contact info. We have the webpage. All of these resources will be here. We'll be scheduling some other smaller stakeholder meetings. So if you have interest as a neighborhood association, a different organization, community group, or people that we're not able to participate, let us know. We'll continue to make sure that we're accessible and following up. And again, getting the feedback that will lead to a project that best serves the community. So thank you so much. Thanks for taking the extra time. And again, let us know what you need going forward. So thank you. And everyone take care. Have a good evening.